This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston. We are two Syracuse sports reporters with a baseball podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Round 2 this week. Wanted to come back on, had a couple more things to say. The Mets about to start their series with the A's, and some interesting things going on there as far as quotes from people and where they're even playing.
Yeah, the Mets headed out to California. We promised you guys an extra episode this week with kind of some of our bits and bops and observations from Citi Field, so we're hopping on to do that now on Friday night. The Mets are getting ready to play the A's on Friday night. 10:05 p.m. start tonight from Sacramento, California. No longer the Oakland days. Of course, if you're a baseball fan, you know that they are moving to Las Vegas. But in the interim, they are playing in Sacramento this season in a minor league stadium. How interesting is that? I think you just said capacity in that place is like 14,000.
I was going to say, I think it sits like around 15,000 people, which is just such a different look. Yeah, and I'm sure as a fan, it does make you appreciate the experience of having larger ballparks and stadiums. Because I will say, I think that an experience like that, I almost wish that I could ask, the Mets players, how did that make you feel? Could you feel a difference? Because I think in those situations, you realize how much fans really can impact a game,
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Sacramento, the whole thing going on with the A's is just a weird situation. Like, they move them out of Oakland, but they can't play in Oakland for one more season. So it's like you got to go up to Sacramento. Nothing's going on in Sacramento. Genuinely just strange. But I do agree with you that for a player to play in a place like New York City and then to move over to Sacramento, California in a minor league stadium must be kind of jarring for a guy like Luis Severino.
And speaking of that, Mets reporters obviously able to ask him some questions. This is a guy who was a Met last year. And something really interesting came out of that conversation that Ashley's going to share with us.
Yeah, this is actually hot off the press. Mets reporters obviously just getting there tonight. It's 8 o'clock. They don't play till 10. Severino was talking about his free agency. Obviously was a big part of the Mets for the last year or 3 years. And he was a guy that fans really weren't sure if they were going to bring back in free agency, what was going to happen. He ended up signing with the A's for, I believe it was 3 years, $67 million, biggest contract in the history of the A's. But he told the Mets, allegedly, that he would have re-signed for 2 years and $40 million. And the Mets said no. His agent told him, Severino, that the only offer they were going to give me was the same deal they gave Frankie Montas, which was 2 years, $34 million. A lot to unpack there. I mean, honestly, that's kind of jarring to see. I feel like, listen, of course we're skewed right now. Montas is hurt to start the season, so nobody has any positive thoughts there. Is Severino worth more than 2 years, $34 million? Yes. Is he worth probably less than 3 years, $67 that the A's gave him? Yeah, probably somewhere in the middle. I'm just a little surprised that David Stearns and the Mets, I guess, didn't want to keep him to the point. I mean, what, $6 million? He wants 2 years, 40, and you're like, no? Come on.
I'm surprised. Like you said this earlier just before we got on the air. Ashley said something like, this doesn't sort of feel like David Stearns, and it really doesn't.
Yeah.
Like Severino was somebody who I was sort of surprised that they parted ways with. Like he was the kind of dude who went out there and you felt pretty good about his starts. And
yeah.
I don't know. I understand there's a whole sort of chess game that needs to be played on the Mets, but I'm surprised. I'm surprised that they wouldn't have shelled out the money for him. I really think he could have made a difference.
Yeah, I'm just surprised when it came down to that little of a margin, right? $6 million. What is that to the Mets? Not a lot. And they let Severino walk, a guy who's been a big part of the culture and a big part of the rotation for the last couple of years. I mean, last year down the stretch, of course, we know what happened to the Mets pitching staff. They really all aligned at the right time, the whole 9 yards into the playoffs till they ran out of gas. But there were points last summer when things were kind of sketchy in May and June where, Severino was the only guy you felt good about once every 5 days.
I know what you mean. Honestly, looking back on it, it was like, okay, Manaea, the best. But Sevy, for me, was kind of in there in that maybe 2 or 3 spot.
He was a rock. He was a stronghold for me. He didn't have many clunkers last year. You knew when he went out there that you were probably getting a quality start and a good chance to win the game.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's interesting to see that, he moved on, and we are obviously wishing him well. Random, but just want to point it out, like that 10 p.m. start or whatever it is, like that kind of works for us. No, I'm actually pumped up.
I'm so happy you just said that, because that is when the Mets go out to the West Coast, it is my money line. I love it when the Mets start at 10 or whatever. Sometimes it's like 9:40. I've been like this since I was a kid. I've always just been, this night side schedule as a reporter really works for me. I've always been a night owl. But when they go out to the West Coast, like that's when I want to watch baseball. 7 is honestly too early for me, especially with this job. We're still working. We're still working at 10 too, but it's just a nicer time.
Completely agree. We normally are here 2:30 to 11:30, but it depends on the day. So the fact that we're able to get out of work and watch the last few innings.
Sign me up.
Sign me up for that. I'm in.
A little Mets in bedtime? Great. Great.
Totally. But anyway, we wanted to come on here and tell you guys a little bit about the bits and the bops as promised. So where do you want to start?
I don't know. Should we just start with some of the more general clubhousey stuff that we noticed?
Sure.
So obviously when we went to Citi Field last week to cover the Mets home opener, we had full access, clubhouse, dugout, batting practice, all of it. And it was so cool, obviously, for the two of us who have been Mets fans our whole lives to kind of see some of that stuff. I honestly found myself, which is why I wanted to do this episode, just taking in more observational things than anything.
I have a note on that even before you get started.
Sure.
I do want to say the actual, stadium or the ballpark, Citi Field, blew me away. Even though I've been there a million times, that part blew me away to actually be watching batting practice and really looking around and seeing just how quite honestly nice it looked, but also just how large from that vantage point. Mm-hmm. Although I will say, the locker room, in my opinion, pretty underwhelming.
The clubhouse. Yeah. No, I totally agree. It was cool to be in the caverns, the little hollows of Citi Field. Obviously, when else would you be down there? Seeing that stuff was really cool. And the clubhouse was, I agree, smaller than I would have thought. I don't know. You you see these shots on TV and on SNY of the guys, I said this to you at the time, in front of their lockers. And it's really nice in there. Don't get me wrong. It's beautiful. They have a ping pong table, a pool table, some stuff for the players to hang out. But it's locker to locker. It's not large.
No, I wouldn't say that. And I also think, in a way, maybe we are a little biased. I've actually thought about this. As you guys know, we're in Syracuse. We cover Syracuse football, Syracuse basketball. Syracuse football just got the most unreal facility of all time. Ashley's actually going to tour it tomorrow.
Very excited.
It's going to be so cool. And obviously they just have a lot of really rich donors and whatnot.
Millions of dollars.
But that entire complex, I feel looked like it sort of blew this out of the water. And I'm not sure why that is. But I thought that was interesting.
I know, maybe, and again, I don't know some of these things. There's spaces for players that we can't see in the whole 9 yards. I'm sure there are. But yeah, the clubhouse, I guess, didn't live up to my expectations, literally space-wise. It was nice. It just wasn't that big.
Yep, agree.
So some observations from, kind of when we first walked in the clubhouse. First of all, it was just a media sort of free-for-all. And I don't know what I was anticipating. Again, most of our experience covering things is more at the college level and semi-pro, Syracuse Mets, AHL hockey, that type of stuff. But it was truly just pregame. We were kind of standing there being sort of just following other people's cues, being all right, so we can just go up to whoever we want. What's happening here?
I know. We honestly almost wish that we asked those questions sooner, because I will say my one regret is that when we got in there at first, one of the players in the locker room was Brett Beatty, and we realized later on that you're essentially allowed to go up to anybody and ask them questions. And especially now, with all of the heat that Beatty is getting and everything that you guys are saying, I honestly wish we were able to go up and ask him a couple questions. But we got to speak with Vientos, obviously, and he was one of the people who absolutely made himself available pregame, and everybody wanted a piece of that.
Yeah, it's just a little interesting. There's a lot of rules with some other teams that we've covered, and the Mets media guys were awesome. The guy that we met in there, they were great. But with this, it truly was you could go up to anyone pretty much at any time you had access, at batting practice, in the clubhouse pregame, and be like, hey, do you have a second? I have a couple questions. That was just jarring to me. I thought, if anything, it would be stricter than what we're kind of used to. And instead, these pro athletes, maybe that's a give and take of the amount of money they make, are truly kind of available to the media at all times. I saw some writers just sort of grabbing some relief pitcher guys, some random dudes being like, hey, you have a second? It's just sort of a free-for-all.
Well, and mind you, what does feel different too, and I guess this is sort of what being an adult and playing on a professional sports team is all about, is, here at the college level, it sort of feels manned optional. It feels pretty much required. If they're choosing you and they're saying, hey, go up to the podium, or hey, we want you up here speaking, you pretty much have to go. You're going. Whereas I don't feel like that is how it is for the Mets. I sort of feel like you can go up to them and they sort of have the agency to say yes or no based on their routine and their timing and whatnot.
Somebody who said no. Really the only person that I think we saw said no, which goes along with, as a Mets fan, when you're so in the weeds with these things, you kind of read things about guys, you read tidbits, you hear stuff, this one's friendlier than the other, whatnot. Anytime you are a fan of a sports team, you're interested in that stuff. I would say, as a whole, for anybody that we saw, Jeff McNeil was really the only sort of standoffish one. And to say that surprises me would be a lie.
Yeah.
We saw him kind of at his locker, sort of a writer, reporter, sort of did the thing. Hey, you have a minute, you have a couple. And he was sort of just like, no. It was
sort of interesting. He pretty much was the only one who kind of was not interested in the media opportunity. And listen, not everybody is media trained or media friendly. Like, I understand that, based on the player and how you're performing, I'm sure that being around the media is an experience that changes quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Like, I really haven't thought about that a lot, but if you think about it, like being an athlete, it's like the media, when they're coming to you and you're playing great, you have to feel on top of the world, feeling like everybody wants to hear what you have to say.
In New York? Like,
oh my God, yeah. But if not, and you had to go up there and continue to answer those questions, like I could totally see where it would feel like sort of love-hate. And for Jeff McNeil, listen, honestly, I don't know everything that dude, the one guy, was asking him. He was actually asking him a couple of questions about the torpedo bats, and Jeff McNeil was not really interested in answering those.
Sure.
But I do wonder, just with the place that he's at and sort of the situation that he's in, if all of those are sort of factors where he's just not trying to give too much away or something.
Yeah, he's hurt right now. Maybe he didn't want to answer any questions about the injury, about him going down to rehab to Florida.
And that's what people are going to ask, obviously.
And that would be valid. I'm just saying he's the only guy that we sort of saw not be as media friendly.
Yeah, and totally have to say this too. Like, shout out to just the entire Mets team, be that, PR or particularly the communication staff. Like, we were there for the first time ever, and we felt so welcomed felt like there was no place that we couldn't go. And I remember actually saying to you at the end of the night, this is like hour 14 or whatever it is, like, I almost wonder if the Mets sort of intentionally hire people for their communication staff that really do represent the culture of the organization, which to me has always been surrounding, inclusivity and welcoming. Like, that is the feel that you got from everybody. Like, and this is not me picking on the Yankees, but I'm genuinely curious. Like, if you go and cover the Yankees, do you have that similar experience where you're a first timer, but you're completely welcome like that? I'm not sure, but I actually wonder.
Yeah, we have nothing but positive things to say about all of the Mets media people. They were so great in facilitating us getting there and, having full access and everything. And even when we did have questions, they were very welcoming. I do agree. I wonder if that's like that everywhere. Even what I'm talking about right now in the clubhouse sort of free-for-all situation, I wonder if that's a Mets thing or if that's everywhere or if different clubhouses have different feels throughout Major League Baseball. I'm sure that they do, but if there's just like sort of different rules. And honestly, I have this as a note on here too because it struck me so much. Like, all of the New York local news reporters were so nice to us, right? We're holding a mic flag that says like, they're like, the CW, is that a new? We're like, no, we live in upstate New York. Like, we're just Sam and Ashley from Syracuse, all right?
Nobody really knew the mic flag. It was definitely sticking out.
Definitely elicited some questions, but so many nice people that we met. We met a girl from CBS. I think her name was Crystal. Another girl out in, they were just very welcoming, and they were not at all, I guess, what you might even expect from New York media. Obviously, they work in the #1 media market in the United States. So nice, so friendly, so welcoming.
Yeah, there were really some big time people at this event, honestly. So to be treated that way, it made us both really feel good just about this industry in general. Not to mention, even like Gary Cohen, I feel like got to throw him a little bit of credit. Like, we saw Gary Cohen in the not why do I keep saying that, in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
And I'm in my football mindset right now. Everybody
it's
relax.
Football season.
It's football season for us up here. It's spring football. But even him, we kind of made the decision together to go up and introduce ourselves, because why not? Who knows if we're ever going to cover this again, right?
Literally.
And meanwhile, you know what I'll never forget?
What?
Being like, hi, I'm Samantha. Him. What'd you just say?
No. He goes, I'm sorry, who are you? And I was like, ow. I was just standing there like, hi, how are you?
I really think he just didn't hear me.
No,
I just got nervous. And he was genuinely trying to I feel like Gary Cohen is the kind of guy where he has he's been introduced to thousands of people.
Yeah.
He wants to really know what's your name and who are you? So if he didn't hear, he's gonna ask again.
He didn't mean it in a rude way.
No,
like, didn't
he
get that
didn't.
vibe at all. But he genuinely looks at you and goes, I'm sorry, who are you?
Honestly,
I don't know, who am I?
As far as first impressions go, it was like not my best, but we got back on track.
Yeah, we did.
And he even like, you know, gave us a couple minutes of his time, like really asked us questions about where we were at and
So
all this
cool.
stuff. Like
So
really,
great.
just a nice person, you know?
Yeah, of course. He was awesome. Of course, we had multiple, like we were just sitting in the press media lounge and I just like saw Ron Darling. I was like, you know, a lot of triple take moments being like, is that just Ron sitting there on his phone? Like, what is happening right now?
It literally was Ron.
It was Ron.
Oh, by the way, on that note, I just have to say this because now I almost wonder, like, is this true for us? I sure hope so. Every single person who we met that we've seen on TV looked so skinny, bro.
This is my favorite bit and you know how they tell you that the camera adds pounds? Like, I have never had a more real life experience than going to Citi Field. Every single person, I don't even feel like I should name names because that seems rude, but every single person that I saw, whether they were a media member who I frequently see on like an SNY type of thing, or whether they were a player or just anybody that I've seen on TV,
Completely
genuinely 5 to 10 pounds less in person.
It was the weirdest thing.
Strange.
It really, really was. And like, I know our viewers wouldn't be able to answer that, but like, I have to start looking at us on TV and then looking at us in real life.
I kept looking at you. There was one person where I was like, is that even him? Like, what? That doesn't look like him.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. Like, I have to understand why that is an effect that takes place, but it's real. And we kind of got to notice that being around them.
Camera adds a few pounds.
It sure does.
Hope that's true for us too.
Preach.
Anyways, yeah, that was a funny observation. We're just talking about like the press media lounge, the press meal. That's like one of those funny tidbits. I feel like some people are really into that stuff. There's like whole accounts dedicated to like press media meals.
Oh, definitely.
Was really cool. I was a little taken aback by the fact that you had to pay for it.
I was taken back by that
I cannot tell
too.
a lie.
I know, you shouldn't.
With the multi-billion-dollar organization that is the New York Mets, it was $10, all right? It's not, and listen, we expensed it. We expensed it for our like media meal. Like, it's not even our money.
For us, but we're broke. Like, you guys just have to understand that. That's
we
the
are
context.
broke, and there was something in my brain being like, you know, at Syracuse football games and Syracuse basketball games, there's media spread. Like, that's free to the media.
It is free, you're right.
And I think most places have that you go to cover games. I just couldn't get over that it was $10.
I know, you're right. I actually forgot about that.
And
it
it
is
was
free at Syracuse.
I think it's free at most places.
And mind you, like Syracuse, the actual food that was there, like Citi Field blew Syracuse
Knocked
out of
it
the water.
No, I should add, we were eating like strip steak, like New York. What is it? Steak? I don't even know the type of steak.
Yeah. It was like I
And
think
like
it was
shrimp and pasta and like really great food.
Yeah.
But I was alarmed. I mean,
you got your money's worth for $10. That's
did.
for sure.
And you could get other things. There were options to get like sandwiches and stuff, all of which was like more discounted. Like, you could get like other ballpark food, like a chicken sandwich or something, which was like $6. And I know it's not $6. If you walk out to the concourse, it's probably like $16.
Yeah,
so it was
totally.
discounted. I should clarify. And there was some cool stuff too. I saw there was like a little like soft serve ice cream station with like Mets sprinkles.
Everybody was getting that.
I know. Yeah.
Except for us. Why don't we get that?
I don't know. I told my sister's like an ice cream fanatic, and she was like, "What is wrong with you? Why wouldn't you get that?" Anyways, there was like coffee and Mets cups, like genuinely cool stuff, and the food was cool. But I just was stunned. Think about like, do Gary, Keith, and Ron have to pay for their meal every single day?
I saw Steve Gelbs pulling out a credit card.
Like, Steve Gelbs is paying $10 a day.
I know, you're honestly right. And it is funny. Like, I feel like this whole conversation, you're gonna get like 30 comments to say you're cheap. But like, no.
We are. I don't know.
No. Listen, honestly, I will say it's like there's sort of two sides of it. Let's back up a little bit. So with the Syracuse, spread.
Yeah.
Let's be also fair in saying it was free, but sometimes it would just be drinks, actually.
They actually took it away for basketball this year. I shouldn't tell a lie. Last year, they had it for basketball. This year, that wasn't in the budget. So this year was just for football. And sometimes it is. Yeah, we won't even go there.
Like it was free, but like,
and it's like
sometimes it
bagels
wasn't
and
there.
stuff. It's not.
Anyway, just had to be honest about that part too.
Yeah.
So at least at Citi Field, you're getting a bang for your buck. But I do agree. Long story short, I was sort of surprised just considering like just the feel of the Mets in general. It seemed like the kind of place where media members would eat for free. I completely agree.
I don't even care. My $10, what do I care? I'm there for one day and it's also expense from the company. But I just kept thinking about that. Like the people who are genuinely there every day, your Anthony DeComos, your Steve Gelbs, your, a Laura Albanese or something, they're paying $10 every single day?
I know.
I can't.
No, you're right. We're gonna have to ask how
me to unpack.
Yeah, how people feel about that.
Which probably isn't gonna break the bank for those people, but for us, it might.
That's so true and so funny.
Anyway, and it's not just Syracuse. I should add. There's usually, I feel like, media meals at most things, like hockey games I've been to and stuff like that. Not just Syracuse University that does media spreads.
But you know what? It also reminds me of something else that I noticed in that space. Like, we're sort of just laughing, and I almost want to say things like this so you guys know, if we ever like do actually make it to the places we're attempting to go and the places you all believe we're gonna end up, then I feel like we should say these kinds of things now. Like, we went into that room and most people, not all, but like most people, I know like a lot of people prep before and all that stuff, but most people are genuinely like chatting, hanging out, like eating food. Like, we are legitimately typing away, writing away, working on like 8 different things. Like, every single person was, because we're in like that's just what local news is, especially when you're not
so local news
in like a top tier market. Like, we just do all that stuff on our own. So like, it was just such a funny kind of experience where we're really trying our best to network, but at the same time we're like shoving food down our throats, writing a million things. Everyone's like, oh, like, did you enjoy the game? Like, it must have been so surreal. Like, I didn't watch the game. No, Ashley was literally so mad at me. She's like, I just really wanted to be in for the first inning. I'm like, I know.
I wasn't even mad at you. I was mad at the situation. Like, when I tell you 14 hours and we were working all 14 hours of those hours, we really were. Yeah. Not trying to complain. It's just, that's local news. Yeah, I should add, when we walked into the press media, like, lounge area where you eat before the game, we're in there. We got like 4 things to put up on YouTube.
Not lounging.
Like 3, not lounging. Laptops plugged in. I need an outlet or the laptop isn't gonna like work. I have a backpack like 3 times the size of my body. I'm like walking around and this guy does look at me and us, but like he said it to me and he was like, "Are you lost?" Yeah. And I was lost.
Oh,
I was lost.
100%. Like, our laptop, you guys, when we really get going, our laptop like huffs and puffs. It like screams.
It's a jet plane.
Like, it actually makes sounds like that.
It doesn't work unless it's plugged in. So I needed an outlet. So I was a little lost, but I also really just needed a table with an outlet, or things that were needed to get done were not going to get done.
You know what feels like a bop on that note?
Sure.
Just a classic like local news bop was the mini mics.
I don't even.
Should we not even go there?
No, we should. All right. We have some stuff that actually has not come out yet.
You were lifeless at that point.
When we had to go do it the second time, there was no life inside my body.
That was the darkest moment of your day, and I knew it. And I'm like, I'm just going to have to stay positive here.
And I actually did sort of rebound afterwards. I feel like when we were like cutting stuff and stuff, but there was a time around maybe 5, 6 o'clock where I didn't see a lot of light in the world. We go out there, all right, like we said, we don't watch any of the game. Well, why is that? Well, the first couple innings, we're shooting some things that we had to do in front of the stadium, some promo stuff, some things for our station, the whole 9 yards, with the microphones in front of the camera. Traditional.
They're trying to get us some sponsors. Like,
they're really trying to put us out there. Yeah, honestly, the list of sponsors is really cool. So if we can get one of those, I feel like you guys will be like, that's cool.
Yep.
Anyways, then we go inside, like 3rd to maybe 4th, 5th. We got up to the press box in the bottom of the 6th. I remember that vividly.
Well, because we did interviews first. Tell them that part.
3 to 6 innings. We're standing there in the Citi Field Rotunda, the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. Beautiful.
Yep.
Stunning. Standing there, interviewing fans for some fun social stuff we wanted to do. You know, they got us the station, sent us with these mini mics. I'm sure I don't know where they got them from, but the mini mics simply did not work, and we did not know that. We're talking to fans. We're doing some fun stuff, which you are going to see because we did sort of catch it and fix it, but you know, hey, favorite moment from last year's playoff run, you know, just funny stuff like that. I don't even remember what the other questions are. I honestly blacked out.
I'm trying to think. Like, Shea Stadium favorite moment.
Yes. Reaction when the Mets signed Juan Soto in one word. You know, stuff like that.
Best part of the playoff run, or is that what you just said?
I said that, yeah.
Awesome. Things like that.
You get the point. Some funny social one-hitters. We talked to probably about 15 fans.
I was going to say probably in between 12 and 15.
Probably in between 12 and 15. You know, some great stories. People are out here, some older grandma, some moms with their kids. Get back up to the press box using these mini mics. There's just no audio. There's no audio on the videos. Not only is there not audio from the microphones, there is no audio on the video. It is mute, silent, unusable, no one, a failure.
And you see Ashley like...
being like, okay, Juan Soto, one word, no audio.
And I see her, but also we're telling you this to also show you, and whoever listens to it, that we are motivated people, because she's looking through. We like had just sat down in the press box. I can normally tell where we're at in the day based on how frizzy Ashley's hair is. It was getting frizzy.
Ooh, it was getting frizzy. I needed a water.
we were getting really thirsty and a little hangry among some other things. But I see her looking at the video. And like, I could tell her mannerisms by this point when something is really about to hit the fan. And she is just looking so upset. We sat down for like legitimately like the top of the seventh. And that was it.
Oh my God. That was it. It was top of seventh, bottom of seventh. We're out.
Well, she said, what are we going to do? I'm like, well, what do you think? I'm like, listen, they sent us here to do social media. We can't go back with 15 interviews that don't work. We got to get back down there and we got to do more interviews right now.
I was so distraught. When I tell you distraught was the term. Meanwhile, mind you, it was just the two of us sent on this trip. So I should add that my boyfriend who was there on the trip with us, because I was staying with some of his family, whatever, is standing there with the camera being like, all right, guys, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Like filming everything.
Like,
and then I had to be like, no, none of it turned out. So then we get up on the little escalator, take all of our belongings. We had maybe 4 nice minutes in the press box, and that's being generous.
Yep.
Hauled it back down to the rotunda and got what we needed to get. And we will be putting that out there at some point. Haven't been able to get to it this week, but we got more interviews. And then the game promptly ended, and we had to haul our butts back downstairs to Carlos Mendoza.
Made you realize one thing, though? Because end of the day, like, we probably, when all was said and done, talked to like 25 fans.
Yeah.
Everybody had a great story.
Truly.
I'm not saying I would have preferred it went that way, but it makes you realize how many people this place matters to.
Yeah.
Because everybody really had something remarkable to say, whether it was about family or a tradition or a memory. You're talking about parents and love stories people meet. I mean, we had so many people who were like couples who were telling us about their stories at Citi Field or at Shea Stadium, or their parents met there. Like, it was really like nice to see that, you know?
Yeah, no, it was. It was very, even the second time we went down there and we were quite discouraged, quite weary, distraught at that point. We still got some good stuff.
Yeah,
so
really
shout
did.
out to Mets fans. And we rebounded and we made it through. But yeah, that was a trying time. The mini mics just nowhere to be found.
No.
We were even like, we should do a cute thing with like, put like a little like why am I a Mets fan thing on the mini mics for the next time. The mini mics don't work.
We're gonna figure out how they work and then use them the next time, because it is a cool idea. It just didn't work out this time. All right, we got 2 more for you. I know that we talked about this the last time, but we sort of had to hit it really fast again. Like, Alex Cohen was just very memorable in our opinion.
She walks around that place like she's the first lady, and she is, but she's the people's first lady.
Yep.
At batting practice, she walks up with her daughter, I believe her name's Sophia Cohen.
Or Sophie, maybe.
Yeah, her daughter with Steve. And they're just, they're walking around. They're talking to the New York media members who I imagine they're familiar with, some of the players. Like, they're truly just walking around amongst the gaggle, the entire rest of the gaggle that was there, including us watching batting practice. So that was just cool to see. She seems, Alex Cohen, so friendly and so accessible as, she is the heart and soul of that place, along with Steve. She totally could sit up in her suite if she wanted to and never talk to anybody, but they are just totally not that type of ownership couple. So that was cool to see. And then her shoes, obviously.
The word that comes to mind outside of stylish is accessible. Like, they're just accessible human beings.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really cool for the fans to be able to see. And like, honestly, even for us, like,
yeah,
I was sort of starstruck by her, to tell you the truth.
I was a bit stunned. She like brushed past us at one point, like truly, like was right next to me, and I was like, "It's Alex Cohen."
I know. I'm not even sure what it was. Like, maybe just knowing like how powerful of a person she was, or like what she has access to, like, but also her humility.
Yeah.
Like, end of the day, she is a billionaire. Like, and she, or and
with
and
a B.
Right. And I don't know. She seems so humble. Like, if you saw her, just walking on the side of the street and you didn't know who she was, you wouldn't know that she was that rich.
Totally. Totally. So humble, so out there, just, again, talking to a media member. She doesn't have to talk to New York media members if she doesn't want to.
No.
But that's what she's out there doing.
It wasn't a show.
No.
She really wanted to form and build those relationships, which, like, we have talked about, so we won't get too into it. But, like, that is definitely a part of the reason why they got Soto. No doubt about it.
100%. So stylish out there in, like, I think we talked about this in one of the other ones, but, like, in a New Yorker nowhere jacket, like a hat. And then just had these, I've never seen anything like it before in my life, these New Balance sneaker heels. It was insane. I can't
so
even
cool.
paint a mental picture because it was indescribable.
You just had to see the eventually, hopefully, a photo comes out of those and somebody sees it. I sort of wish that somebody from the Mets marketing team or whatever, or creative, like, would have seen that and posted it, because it was just that cool. But hopefully at some point we get to see it.
Have to imagine they're custom.
Oh, definitely.
Have to be.
Definitely. All right, last but not least, There was a really strange thing happening where everybody was calling, everybody's a stretch, but why were people calling Jesse Winkler Jesse Winkler?
I have no idea. Multiple. Again, we said this in our last episode. I don't know if, truly, I don't know if it was the New York accent. I don't know if some people were intoxicated. They were. But like everybody we talked to, because Winkler was one of the people that we got to talk to pregame batting practice. I don't even know what we were saying. And they were just like, that guy, Jesse Winkler. And I was like, his name is not Jesse Winkler. I don't.
Like, how do you think that caught on with so many people? I believe this is what it's called, but have you ever heard of that thing, like the Nelson Mandela effect?
Yeah.
Where certain, people just kind of get it in their minds that things looked a certain way or a logo looks a certain way, but it never actually had the thing.
Yeah.
That's how I felt with this. I'm
know.
like, how did you all collectively add this L?
Never heard that before our time there.
Like, where did it come from?
I don't know. It was genuinely strange.
So bizarre. But even beyond that, I think it is worth noting that we do talk about Jesse Winkler a lot as somebody who's sort of outside of the Mets mold, and he definitely has this certain like feel about his personality. But at the same time, he was also like just really a really nice dude, you know?
The nicest guy. Somebody commented, and I did kind of catch it. I'm not sure if he was just sort of really being kind of emotional and reflecting, but that question you asked about his daughter, somebody was like, did he choke up? And I honestly am not 100%.
I think he was probably like one question away from it.
He was on his way there.
Yeah, one more question about his daughter and he could have been there, and just to hear like he cares about, her so much in that way and that's his motivation. I'll think about him differently from here on out because of that.
I will too. It was really cool and it was really great. Yeah, beyond that, that's sort of all our observations. The only other thing I had to say was like in the clubhouse, everybody was sort of friends with who you thought they were friends with, right? McNeil and Alonso, locker next to each other. Everybody sort of said they were friends for a long time. Lindor and Soto on opposite ends by the door, sort of lockering next to each other. We left the room finally for after post-game availability, and they were kind of talking to each other in Spanish with Carlos Mendoza, all sort of just messing around. And we were walking out, and Francisco Lindor, so friendly, looked at us and was like, "Have a good night, guys." Mm-hmm. Like, you have a good night. What do you mean? Like,
no, I know.
You don't have to say that to me.
I know what you mean. Also, I don't know if it would be too hard to look up right now, but do you remember any of the questions people asked for a question of the week thing? Anything that stuck out to you?
I think they were more baseball-y, so we can talk about them Monday. We'll still be back on Monday, like regularly scheduled programming.
All right, perfect. All right, yeah, then on Monday, just know we have been looking at your questions. If they're more baseball-y, we'll save them for a more baseball-y episode. Thanks so much, as always, for sticking with us. We will see you back here when the next big thing happens.